Good day to you and welcome to my channel Cujo Sound, and I'm ready with another little video here in my Game Audio Talk series. I'm Bjørn Jacobsen, and this time it's all about Horizon Zero Dawn from Guerrilla Games, mainly based in the Netherlands. There's a lot of interviews out there with the sound team discussing the aesthetics and how all the sounds are made. There's especially a good one over at Marshall McGee's channel, which I'll link in the description below. Here with Game Audio Talk, I talk about game audio, obviously. It's not a review of the game, and I'm not trying to bash the games that I talk about. It's all about how it's done, why it's done the way it is, and what kind of challenges could the developer face when setting the game up like this.
How did that get here?
Especially because I didn't work on this game, so I don't know how they solved certain things, but that makes it even more interesting trying to figure out how they did so. As a sound designer myself on bigger games, I find it really interesting to try and figure out how they solve things, and how perhaps I could have solved it differently, or the challenges that they face, which I also face in my daily work. So let's get to it. Horizon Zero Dawn throws a really well done soundscape at you, and it's quite clear that a lot of time and effort went into making this game. The game features some very upfront music, which is actually quite loud during most of the game. Yet it's really well mixed, and therefore there is room for such loudness without the soundscape being totally clogged or saturated. The game has a quite extensive graphical element to its UI design and primarily uses audio here as a support for the graphics rather than a feature by itself. It does so really well, and it doesn't stand out as unnatural to the action being performed when using the UI or both, or as in the menu right here. Here we have a city with a very well done soundscape of the overall city.
So many people here all talking at once. How does anyone think?
Either a fully spread 3D emitter or a 2D sound is being played, which is triggered somehow when entering the premises. There's also a crowd here, and notice how it's seemingly coming from here. But if we walk through this opening, then the emitter point now seems to shift and be coming from here. This tells us that the attenuation of this 3D emitter is not the direct line between us as the listener and the source of the sound. There is some sort of gating or occlusion system here, placed here, which leads the sounds through this opening first before it gets to us. This provides us with a much more smooth and realistic experience than if the sound was blasting through the wall. Such a gate is a great way of forcing sounds through specific areas instead of having your 3D emitter just throw sounds at you in the attenuation radius that it's been given. Notice here when running in other parts of the city that there is a fully spread background or even a 2D environment that continuously plays.
Still more blood. The thief got cut. Trail ends here. But someone must have seen the thief.
This is a smart way of leaving anything that needs direction and guidance to the 3D and controlled attenuation, and leaving what is overall to the 2D and not changing. There is also a lot of walla going on, but that combined with lots of generated voices from nearby NPCs really makes this place come to life, much better than a static background walla sound only would have done.
Fine goods for a fair price. Metal bought here, good prices, fair prices. Metal.
As I have mentioned in some of my previous videos, then as a player, to achieve the experience of silence, the game may actually have to deliver more sound to you. But as a player, we perceive it as the opposite. Just like this stealthy grass. Usually conveniently placed around the world by the level designers. This covers up the protagonist from NPC vision, and is supposedly a more covered and silent place than if you're walking in the open. But actually, this tall grass has a much louder sound when moving around in it than walking in the open world. But we still perceive it as we are now silent or hidden.
Let's get this over with.
The music and sound design does quite well in transitioning from normal harmless gameplay into stealth mode or combat, or into stealth, which then evolves into combat. Another quite well done feature in the game music after combat is the use of the so-called victory gong. This is not unusual for games like this to use it, but this game is a great example of how that transition is done, and done so well. The main character Aloy quite often has comments during gameplay about what is going on. This is a great way to support the narrative of the current situation, and moment of keeping the player in the loop about what is actually going on. She also gives you actual hints, concealed as thoughts just being spoken out loud, like here.
I can see them. I can't see you.
Reminding us about how the stealth system in the game actually works.
I should be able to jump onto the tonic from here.
She also provides us with information about if combat may be imminent or close by, meaning that the informant of combat is not only provided through the combat music or very aggressive sounds of the NPCs.
Could be a stick.
Quietly.
This is a nice change from some of the more loud games out there these days. Almost everything in the game has a very long attenuation curve and can be heard very far away. Some sort of priority system is most likely being used here to control the volumes of the important ones and diminish the not so important ones. The mix is very well done here.
How can I learn to override you? I've got a feeling it's in another cauldron.
There's a lot of water in this game, and this can be quite tricky to get right, speaking from experience. Either because of phasing issues if you have multiple emitters with the same sound, or it can be hard to control one emitter if you want to add details to various areas of the river and other kinds of riverbeds. Notice that the river here is audible quite far away because of the long attenuation curve, but only when we get quite close, the filter actually allows us to hear the clean sound. This is also very tricky to get right. Such a filter change can easily be done too fast and make the very unnatural sweep of the filter too obvious. The river here could be done by just one emitter, placed on a spline that runs along the river so that the emitter is always at the closest point in the river to the player. It can also be done with multiple emitters, with one overall river ambience, which is the one we heard when far away, which then goes away and all the detailed emitters take over once we get close enough. Here in this specific location, I seem to notice that I'm walking along the river close to the river sound emitter, but as we get to about this point here, there seems to be a second sound occurring, leading me to believe that this river is made out of multiple emitters. Avoiding phasing here tells me that this is a job really well done.
Out of ammo.
The long attenuation and control of what you hear also gives you a great ability to orientate yourself constantly and knowing where your enemy is. This is a great way to use sound as the informant that binds the experience together. Because if this didn't work like this, the combat experience could be more confusing. This is also very well done. The various enemies and creatures in this game all have quite unique sounds. Here, it's right in front of you. But notice the specific sound just before the attack, combined with the visuals. This sound is a way for you as a player to orientate yourself later in combat if the specific NPC is out of vision, but still in audible range. All the creatures in the game have their own pre-attack sound, so just by listening, you can know when to duck or otherwise move out of the way. The game does have a lot of UI, and the game does have a health bar showing your current health. But the screen also becomes red when injured. Even more so, Aloy's appearance appear hurt, but she also has a nice breathing sound to accompany the low health. This is a very nice multi-sensory way of informing you as a player that the character is hurt, using both graphics and sound to underline the current state of a character. That's it for the video about how I hear the game Horizon Zero Dawn play out. This game has a brilliant soundscape and makes use of sound as a support for narrative, combat, and other actions. Combine that with a good mix of sounds and volume control, and you'll get a well-rounded experience that isn't saturated or clogged with loud noises. Even though the game can be perceived as quite intense and loud, it does not provide you with listening fatigue because of the loudness. I hope you enjoyed this little video and it gave you some thoughts on how AAA game audio may be implemented. Again, have in mind that I didn't work on this game, so this is not a documentary about how it's actually done in the game. It's my own experience and ideas that speak out here. If you liked this video, consider giving me a thumbs up or even subscribe to the channel for more game audio talks and content. If you really liked all of this content and wants to be kept up to date, then why not support me on patreon.com/Cujo Sound, where you for as little as $1 a month can help me sustain this channel by helping me afford the time that I spend on creating all this content. It also gives you access to free mentoring and sparring from me if you have any game audio related questions for yourself or your current project. You can also stay up to date with both Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at /Cujo Sound, or on Twitter as @WhiteNoiseTrash. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again some other time. Cujo Sound out.
You have our thanks.